Hello, friends. Welcome to this episode of My Mentor. This is the place where visionary and driven leaders, professionals, and entrepreneurs meet. Today, I'm having a conversation with Dr. Noluthando Nematswerani. She currently works as the Chief Clinical Officer at Discovery. Dr. Noluthando, thank you so much for joining me today. I must say, it's very rare to find well-accomplished business people or business leaders like yourself who remain humble and down to earth. How do you do that?
Jabu, thank you so much firstly for inviting me. I know you said 20 decades. I hope it was that long. It's 2.
2 decades, 2 decades.
I'm scared that people will think I'm that old. I think it's when you really understand that your success is really, it's not about you.
Yeah.
I think for me, I realized a long time ago that all my achievements are not about me. It's really about how I can use them to impact others. And once you take that approach in life, then, you can't carry your success in your head because, it is about, yes, God uses you, but it's about the benefit of others, So I think that's really how I approach life.
Have you always been like that?
Always like that, and I look and I always chat to my brother and I say I think it also comes from the parents that we have.
Yeah.
They raised us like that. They taught us, that people are important, in your own success, in your journey, and you must always remember that. And I think also maybe my grounding in Christianity around, God using us for other people's benefit. So that's really how I live my life and how I approach every person that I come across.
That's really amazing. I know you serve in various leadership forums at Discovery. I believe the Discovery Health Executive Committee, the Risk Committee.
Exco,
yes. You also chair of the
Clinical
Exco. A lot of responsibilities there. High profile, I must say. Very, very inspirational career journey. How much of the respect element you just referenced and the humility has played a role in your rise in corporate?
I mean, I would assume that it has, definitely, because, even that rise within Discovery, it's not something that I came in there, I thought, okay, here's my ladder, I'm going to just climb.
Okay.
Like other people, I know people who are very, they plan it, and if it doesn't happen that way. So I think it's believing that God has everything, in control, and understanding that everything happens at the right time for the right reason. Because I never have wanted to rush my career growth, but it happened, on its own, and it's really about commitment in what I do, and giving it my all and putting my heart out there.
Yeah.
Some of the things that have happened to me and how my growth has happened, it's not because I sat and said, okay, this is the plan.
Yeah.
But it just happened during the course of me just doing what I love.
Yeah.
Which is also another blessing,
Awesome.
to be rewarded for doing the work that you love. And that's how my growth at Discovery has actually come about.
You've been at Discovery since 2006, I believe?
Yes. I look at my kids. One of them, when I joined Discovery, was just, she was just a year old when I joined Discovery, and now she's in matric.
Wow.
So she's a Discovery baby if I can call it. In fact, I do have a proper Discovery baby, one I got when I was at Discovery. So it's been a journey, but when people think you've been here for 17 years, it's a long time. The beauty about the company is that while I have been there for that long, I've not done the same thing every day.
Wow. Awesome.
So it's really just the opportunities that you get within the business, and also what you are willing to take on as a person, because the platforms are created for all of us, but not all of us take that the opportunities that are presented to us.
Yeah.
And it's really just doing the work.
Yeah. I suppose the fact that in 3 years' time, or almost 2 years' time now, you would have been at Discovery 20 years. And the fact that you've been there for so long, in some ways, a testament of the great organization that Discovery is. What is the secret? How does Discovery maintain people like yourself to stay so long in an organization?
we always laugh because there's a discovery culture.
Okay.
You know, it's people who really want to change the world.
Yeah.
In essence,
Wow.
people who really are driven by wanting to see a difference. And I think Discovery is broader than healthcare because we do have other companies.
Yeah.
But, when I think about healthcare, there is so much that we need to be doing to impact healthcare. And I think most of the people who stay are people who are really aligned to the vision of the company, which is about making people healthier and enhancing and protecting their lives. So if it aligns, and I think I always find that when the vision of the company aligns with your own personal vision, then that's a very great combination. It syncs, and then you just find a platform for you to realize your own vision for your life, but it just aligns with the company's vision.
Amazing. Talking about people who want to change the world, I believe one of your driving reasons why you became a doctor was because in your hometown, there were two well-known doctors that you looked up to that were making a difference. Just tell us about that time, that experience.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town, Umtata, in the former Transkei. And in my family, my mother was a nurse. So that was the closest I could get to healthcare. I saw how she was committed to healthcare.
Yeah.
But when I was sick, I would go to the local GPs.
Yes.
And there were like two prominent ones in our area. And having a mother who's a nurse and seeing what she does, and also thinking I don't think it's a bad idea to actually follow in her footsteps, but I thought I should do better than my mother.
Yeah.
So the next best was obviously now looking at the doctors who were in the environment. And I used to see how they had the responsibility of taking care of the whole town and the surrounding areas within the Transkei, because remember, it was mainly rural, the rest of it. So people would travel from the rural areas to come to the small town to actually be seen. And it used to be long queues.
Sure.
Trying to get to see the doctor.
Yeah.
So there was a real need for us to almost get into this space and also offer this service broader than, those two GPs.
Yeah.
So I think that's what really inspired me to also think about getting into healthcare, because the need was really there, but there were not many who were there qualified to do the work.
And looking back, I have no doubt you have no regrets.
No regrets, no regrets. I always think when people, say, what would you have done if you were to go back and start again?
Yeah.
I would still be a doctor.
Yeah.
I would still be a doctor. I love what I do. Even though I don't necessarily touch and see patients right now, but I always say, I got the opportunity to be a clinician. I was there on the bedside. I used to, treat patients. But moving into the role that I am in Discovery, where I can impact not only people who are in my practice, I can impact, Discovery, currently we administer 3.7 million lives.
Sure. Wow.
Through the work that I do, I can impact those lives.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I could never change it.
Yeah.
I think, I'm doing what I would have done.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Really amazing. So you did practice as a clinician, as you say.
I did.
How long was that for?
So after finishing medicine, my 6 years in med school, then I did my internship.
Yes.
And then ComServe. So that was 2 years, 1 year each.
Okay.
And then I did a bit of locuming, and then I had my own practice in Soweto.
Okay.
So in Chawela.
Okay. Wow.
So I had a practice there. How
long was that for?
So I was there for 3 years.
For 3 years. And did you move straight into, is it corporate? What do you call it?
No. And it's funny enough, yesterday I was talking to one person who used to come and detail to me when I was still in practice. And it was a young man from Soweto who I also, influenced how he has turned out now. So yesterday we were just talking about how I left practice. It was not planned. It was not planned.
Wow.
One day I went into my practice. It was a Saturday morning, going in there. And I was hijacked at gunpoint right outside the practice.
You're kidding me.
That was the last day that I went to my practice.
Wow.
Yes. But, with every sad story, there's always a good reason why things happen like that. I thank that guy who hijacked me.
Directed you.
I tell you, it was that guy because today I'm here because of that guy.
Yeah. Even though the experience was not pleasant.
The experience was not pleasant, but I thank that guy for having come at the time that he did come. I mean, I had built that practice, like I'm saying, I was there for 3 years.
Yes.
I found that practice, I bought it from someone. It was really struggling.
Yeah.
I had built it. I remember that day. The practice was full of patients, but I couldn't service them because obviously
you were still in a shock state.
Yeah, but that was the last time I went there.
So that was the last time?
That was the last time.
You didn't come back the next week?
No.
Wow.
No. I was still traumatized. I got someone to locum. They did an extended locum and then they took over the practice. And fortunately, while I was practicing, I was studying. So I was doing my master's in pharmacology at the time with the University of Pretoria. So I took about 3 months just to recover from the experience.
Sure.
And they were looking for lecturers. So I got a full-time position as a lecturer in pharmacology at UP.
Yeah.
So I stayed there for 3 years. Before that, I moved to Discovery.
Wow. Some people, I guess it's a school of wisdom in some camps, not to make rushed decisions. We must be contemplative and, assess impact. Your decision to leave your practice like on the day, do you in retrospect it was the right decision, but how do you marry that with this school of thought?
so it was what had happened is that a month before this incident, they had broken into my practice. And they stole the electronics. And we recovered so I don't know how it happened that somehow they didn't have transport. I don't know, because they dumped the stuff, as Gangeni, just next to in some ditch, not so far from the practice, and we recovered everything. So a month later now, they are hijacking me at gunpoint. So I thought to myself, it's 2 incidents very close to each other. So I thought, you know what, what's next? It was almost like, okay, now it could be my life. So I thought, you know what, maybe the decision to move, I must just make it right at that point.
Wow.
Because, I mean, my car was recovered. So I just felt with those 2 incidents, no, it was time for me to move. It was time to move. But it was not a nice decision to make. It was a sad decision to make because it felt like I was abandoning my patients. I had developed a relationship with the community, But, there was a family next door to my practice, the Maluleges. I will never forget them. They wrote a very nice message to me as that happened. And it was that message that made me realize that actually that was the right decision that I made. That sometimes it is in those very tough situations and difficult times that you realize the best in you. And so I had to make the move. Amazing. And I don't regret having left at the time, and I don't regret having moved to the university to lecture, because all of that was part of my journey. And that's the thing about life, because going to school from an early age, our lives are planned ahead. Next year I'm going to grade 5 and grade 6 as a structure, but life in reality doesn't pan out like that. Some incidents push you in a direction you didn't initially intend to go in, but in the bigger scheme of things, that's where you should be. Even part of your lecturing, I presume. What would you say that experience of lecturing taught you or added in terms of value for your career holistically? I mean, that's what I'm saying. Everything happens for a reason. And I think my journey has taught me that. As a result, I never question things that happen to me, because I always know there's a reason.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's scary, but that's how my life plays out. And I always just trust that even if it's negative or it's positive, I know there's a reason why it's happening at the time it's happening. So I went into lecturing, and I actually never thought I would be a good lecturer. But, you know, the positive response that I would get from the students. And remember, this was in the University of Pretoria.
Yeah.
We were the first 2 Black lecturers in the Department of Pharmacology.
Wow.
And it was quite rewarding to the people who would come and actually say after a lecture, that was great, ma'am. Wow. It would be the Afrikaner students. They would
amazing.
Come and so that was a nice, fulfilling journey for me to get into lecturing. I never used to think I'd be patient, but I developed the patience and the love for teaching.
Yeah.
And I remember, I used to do, some tutoring during like lunchtime. I would ask the students to say, if you're struggling, let's come. Let's have these sessions together. At the end of this 1 year, our head of department, Prof, called me into his office and said, no student has failed this year.
Wow.
So I thought, okay, where is this conversation going? What is he trying to say?
Yeah.
So he said, no student has failed this year. Our standards have not dropped.
Wow.
I just want to have a conversation with you. Sure. So I said, let's have the call. So what I used to do, so I would teach the students and I would tell the other lecturers, I'm not going to be part of the setting of the papers.
Yeah.
You set the papers, I teach them.
Okay.
So, and what it did, because remember, like I'm saying, we were the first Black faces for the students.
Yeah.
They could relate to us.
Yeah.
They could come to my office.
Yeah.
They could come and I would give them time, because I knew that, their struggles were real and they needed somebody who cared and somebody who would listen to them and really provide the guidance. But there was this one guy, I really would love to find him and just want to know what has happened in his life, because I know he's probably doing amazing things where he is.
Yeah.
He was struggling. And he would come to my office on a daily basis to ask for clarification on this, a clarification on that. I would give him my time.
Wow.
But there would be days when you're thinking, oh no, not again today. So during this conversation with Prof says, I want to talk about this one particular student. So, and Prof didn't know what I knew about this person. So I said, okay, yes, Prof says, this guy wrote the first exam, got a SAP. So he got 40-something%. So he had to sit for the second exam. So obviously he would come to my office and ask. And I would still be patient with him. And he wrote the second exam, got 67%.
Sure.
After that, because now they're thinking, is this a real mark or not?
Yeah.
So they took him to an oral examination. So, and Prof is telling me this. He says, we took him to an oral exam, and this guy knew what he was talking about. So I think for me, it really confirmed that I am here for a reason.
Yeah.
And I'm here for, even if it's not for all the other many hundreds of students that I was teaching,
but it is this one
guy.
Yeah.
For this one guy. And
that's amazing.
that was just one of those amazing journeys. And what had happened is that then when I moved to Discovery, so I stopped lecturing.
Yeah.
A few years later, they approached me and they said, would you want to come back?
Is this the University of Pretoria?
The University of Pretoria. I didn't blink. I said yes, because for me, I remember that guy.
Wow.
And I thought there could be many more.
Wow.
Who need to see a face like mine.
Yeah.
That's familiar. That's easy to approach. That's easy to ask.
Yeah.
And it could be life-changing for those students. So I went back and I lectured. I mean, I only stopped end of 2019, just before COVID hit.
Okay.
So I was there, I think it was 2011, 2012, up until then. So
sure. That's a long time, man.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I must say, in everything that I do, I think academia is my probably first love, if I can say that.
Yeah.
I think my love for teaching really, I realized it when I was there at the University of Pretoria.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were teaching part-time while working at Discovery.
Yes.
How are you managing to balance those responsibilities?
You know, when you love something, you make it work.
Make it work,
You
yeah?
make it work. So fortunately, also the university tried to make it easy for me, because obviously they also wanted to make it easy for me. So I would have maybe 4 lectures a month.
Okay.
But what they would do, they would say, okay, if you allocated 4 lectures a month, can we make sure that you maybe do 3 on the day that you come?
Okay.
So instead of coming 4 times a month, you can come maybe once or twice a month, and you do your lectures. And I would look forward to going and giving lectures.
It's amazing how your life has touched people from different fronts. So firstly in the medical, in the healthcare space, and that's where directly people's lives, like literally lives. I know normally when we speak of lives, we use a general term, but this is life and death situations. And then now in academia, and in your current role, as you referenced, your impact is much broader than just the patient, because now you are working with organizations that have direct contact with these patients. When you look back at your journey holistically, your career from a personal perspective, what sort of key learnings do you draw from there that you believe you could impart to a younger version of yourself who's upcoming and seeks to be in a position like yours?
Yeah. I mean, I say this to young people that I meet, and I get to, even if it's informal mentorship, that firstly you must give your heart into what you're doing. Don't do half-hearted stuff, because if you do half-hearted stuff, you never realize the true impact that you can. And we see this where people just given opportunities, but they really don't take full responsibility of the opportunities that they're given. Yeah, so I think for me it is giving your all in what you do.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you'll see the results.
Yeah.
And it's giving without necessarily expecting much. Because the rewards come on their own. But if you put rewards before putting the work, then that's where I think it's problematic. And I think people are always looking, what am I going to gain if I do this and that, before saying, let me do it and make a difference. So if you go in wanting to make a difference, then it really works out. And that's how I think everything that I do, even at work, they know. I'm not that kind of person who says, okay, my role starts here and it ends there.
This is beyond my scope.
No. And I say this even to my team. I say, if you can't, it may not be your job description.
Yeah.
But don't say now you can't help. If I can't help, even now, I will say, okay, but I think Jabu can. Can I connect you to Jabu?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've helped you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because if I say I can't do it, I can't help you. And then I leave you like that. But I know that somebody else can. Let me at least connect you to that next person. So it's always not wanting to do the barest minimum. Do the maximum that you can in every situation.
Yeah.
And
of course, at Discover, you serve in very strategic positions across different forums, as I referenced, and that has a lot of leadership responsibility. What are some of the things you've done in the past that have helped you become an effective leader in your career?
I think it's there's stuff that you will do from a course. People go for leadership courses and stuff like that. But I think for me, people lead. I always tell my team that while I am maybe their leader, but they also lead in different aspects of their life. People are parents, people are leading in their communities. So there is that intrinsic leadership that resides in all of us. And it is about taking charge and knowing that if you don't do certain things, there's stuff that's not going to move.
Yes. Yeah.
So while I've not really gone and done like a master's of business administration, MBA, like other people have, I think I've learned leadership in practice, by doing. And also, I mean, I lead in my own. I'm a mother in my own environment. I'm a community member. I lead a church in some aspects of. So it's that intrinsic leadership that is in you that you just need to make sure that you take charge and let things move. I think that's how it has played out in my life.
Yeah, and typically one of the big challenges of leadership is when difficult decisions have to be made. Sometimes people walk on eggshells. We avoid certain issues exist. And I think that's where real, true leadership shows up. What's your perspective around or mode of operation when it comes to leadership? What kind of a leader would you describe yourself to be?
I'm an honest and an authentic one. I mean, I see this, and when things are tough, that's where people don't want to own up. So I don't mind taking ownership of good and bad things. And where we've made mistakes, it's really owning up. And I think for me, that's where leadership means the most, because when things are tough, people need to look up to you and feel the comfort and the reassurance that, you know, we've got a leader who is going to be honest with us about the situation and also still guide and say, you know what, even though things are not great, we will get through this if we do X, Y, Z. I mean, it's like you as the head of your family. Your kids look up to you as the head. There may be challenging times in your family, but they look up to you and have that reassurance that we're going to get through this because we've got our dad who's there, you know. So same in the organization. I mean, I always remember one of our great leaders who was our ex-CEO, Dr. Jonathan Brumbeck. And I used to joke and say he's our workplace dad. Okay. Because, you know, even if it's tough in the organization, you look up to a leader and you feel like we're going to get through this. You know, and I think that's what people are looking for. They look for leaders who are courageous, who are not fearful and who are honest and ethical in how they conduct business, and who are dependable and take responsibility for the good and the bad. And then that's how I lead. And that those are the leaders that inspire me as well. In my own journey. That's
amazing. You referenced earlier on that you were studying while practicing pharmacology. Obviously, you're a medical doctor, and then is pharmacology a specialization?
Yes,
I believe. Yes, why did you choose that as your specialization?
And I mean, I must say, it was not something that when I was at med school, I thought I would have done. I thought I would go the clinical route, be a dermatologist or pediatrician or whatever. But I think, I mean, as I was practicing, I realized, you know what, where I studied, you know, we were taught pharmacology in a very, very different way, in that it was drugs and then the patient, but it was never drugs in treating the patient. Okay. So as I was in practice, I thought I want to treat my patients better. I want to understand exactly why I give medication, how, you know, the medications actually impact the outcome of the patient. So I thought, let me go and do pharmacology. And actually, it was the best decision I ever made because I enjoyed it a lot. And also at the University of Pretoria, I was taught by two professors who were doctors themselves. And the way we taught pharmacology at Pretoria, I must say I'm proud of how we taught. It was never just about drugs. It was always, what is the condition that we're treating and how do drugs fit in? So it was never just about, okay, the drugs are there and then the patient is there and then they must meet somewhere along the way, you know? So we started by saying, what is the condition? So if patient is in heart failure, okay, what is the pathophysiology? Why are they in heart failure? And then how do drugs actually correct whatever the abnormality that we are seeing in the patient? So That way, you actually understand why you give medication. It's not just drugs that are sitting there and they somehow collide with the patient along the way.
Yeah. Okay. So, and at Discovery, while we're still on this, there's a time you were looking after the HIV risk.
Yes.
I don't know, it's a risk strategy. Can you just tell us about that and how pharmacology fits into that?
Yeah. Actually, how I got through to Discovery, it was because of the work that I did when I was still at the university. Right around 2004, remember that was when there was the HIV national rollout.
Yes.
HIV drug rollout by the government, the Department of Health. And then doctors had never, it was a new condition to treat. We had never really treated HIV because, it was relatively a new disease. So then there was a requirement for us to train clinicians, for example, on the pharmacology of antiretroviral viral drugs and how they would prescribe them and how they would, just to understand the pharmacology of these drugs. So the university got a tender to actually go and teach clinicians. I drove and flew all over the country to go and teach doctors on the pharmacology of antiretrovirals.
Yeah.
So I did that work, and then Discovery was looking for an HIV clinician to come and assist within their HIV disease management program. So I had done the work, and I saw the advert, and I thought, I don't have experience in corporate, so maybe they won't want me. But I knew what I knew about, HIV. So a colleague of mine at the time says, you always underestimate yourself. Just apply. I said, okay, if you say so, but I don't think they're looking for a person like me because I've never worked in a corporate environment. So then that's how I got to Discovery. So they employed me. I looked after the HIV program. So the program was, we had case managers, we had these members who were enrolled who had HIV. So it was really about how we allocate benefits to them, make sure that they've got the appropriate care and obviously the right medication at the right time. And, the doctors were following the right guidelines in treating these patients. So,
Wow. that's really amazing. Yeah. I like how you took the courageous step to dare this, scary opportunity.
Yeah.
When you landed at Discovery for that role, how did you overcome your initial fears that I'm not qualified for this role? And I presume it was a big responsibility. You were working with people there. How do you ensure that your mindset doesn't impede your performance because you think I'm not fit for this?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, when I got there, the team was amazing. So I think with clinicians, now it's no longer maybe as scary as it was in the past where we never thought we fitted nicely in corporate because I think now there are quite a lot of clinicians in the corporate setting and people can see that, it does actually work. Those days, there weren't many clinicians who were in the corporate setting, which is why we never actually understood how we would fit in. But I got there, it was a team of nurses. There were 2 doctors that I was working with. So they made it easy for me to transition.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I had to learn the corporate aspects of it, but it was still very much clinical. It was still about...
Yes, you could relate.
Yes, I could relate. But it was really how now you use clinical skills in a corporate setting to service, members. So it was, I must say, it was like quick. And I was like, okay, this is home. I'm happy. Wow. And the rest is history.
And how did you move to your next other roles within Discovery?
Yes. So then, so I joined this team, and I think around that time we're looking at a corporate offering. So we're working on this big, product that we're going to sell to corporates. I got involved in that. It was a nice initiative. When you knew and there's already something big that, you're part of, it was really exciting. And then, that product didn't materialize the way that we wanted as a business. And then I told these people, I said, guys, yes, I've done HIV, but I also have pharmacology behind me. I want to do much more than HIV. So then I moved into a role where it was much broader. So I was a medical advisor looking after, chronics, so which is other conditions beyond HIV. HIV still was part of me, so I carried it along because, it was something it was my baby. So I thought I'm not letting it go, but I want to do much more.
Yeah.
And then there was, so I would also do, support for hospital case management, pre-authorizations, but that was all clinical because it's clinical cases. It's a person who's wanting to be admitted, and then they want, approval for certain things. So it was easy for me to just fit in. And also because I was working with other clinical people in all these teams, it was nurses, it was doctors, so it was very nice.
Yeah.
So I did that work for a bit, and then I thought, okay, no, I need to do more.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that I worked with, he was an external contractor who was working with us on this product. Then Soma poached me to go and join another company.
Okay.
Away from Discovery. So I resigned.
Oh, wow.
I resigned. So as I was serving notice, I was called into the CEO's office to say, where are you going and why are you going? And I said, I'm going because I've been given this opportunity. They said, no, not yet.
Is it? Wow.
So then that's when then they said, okay, what else would you want to do? So I said, I would love to do policy, because just thinking about my previous role and also in the lecturing environment and how policy would be an environment where I could really provide very meaningful contribution. Then they say, okay, if you want to go there, then go.
Wow.
So then I never left.
Phone call, sorry, I can't come anymore.
It was not the easiest.
I can imagine.
It was not the easiest, but I said, you know what, it is what it is.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity that has been provided for me, so I'm no longer going to leave.
Yeah.
And I think great decision to have made as well, because then I moved to policy, and I think that's where at Discovery I grew the most. So I still carried HIV, but I was now designing and developing policies for the schemes that we administered, and that's where the impact is, because that's where you're impacting people's healthcare, what they can or cannot receive from funding from the scheme. So I stayed there for 3 years, and then there was a requirement for me then to move into a risk management role. So I moved into a pure HIV risk management role, which was an end-to-end role that included supporting our operational teams, designing policies, supporting the corporates on the corporate strategy for HIV. So it was really a lovely role. But, okay, I've done HIV now. What else? Then they say, okay, we'll just add mental health. I'm like, okay, I'm happy to take that one on. And I always say, very interesting, 2 portfolios, conditions, highly stigmatized, HIV, mental health, highly stigmatized. HIV was better, more structured and more straightforward. Mental health, it's not like it's a bit fuzzy in some aspects. So how do you make it more concrete but still impact lives? So I did that. And then, okay, now I've done that. What next? And then this was the time when I gave birth to my lastborn, 2013. I'm like, okay. I left when I came back from maternity leave. I'm like, okay, I'm back, but I think I need more. I need more. And it was funny because every 3 years I felt like I get an itch to do something more.
It's time.
It was time. So what do I do? Okay, any opportunities? And then there were 2 opportunities that came outside of health now. It was in Vitality and in Life, Discovery Life, the insurance company. So I looked and I thought, okay, do I go to Discovery Life? Do I go to Vitality? So I thought Vitality, seemed close enough, to the work that I was doing on the health side. So I went to Vitality. So I stayed there for few months, and then my health colleague said, I think it's time for you to come back.
Sure.
It's time for you to come back. But you will remember right at the beginning, I said to you, everything that has happened in my journey, it happens for a reason.
Yeah.
So I came back to the team that I was a part of, like the policy team.
Yes.
So to head that team now, the lady that I used to report to was moving on, and they said, well, there is someone that we know who was previously in that space who would be best to come back. So I came back, and when I came back, it was quite interesting because people say, but we thought you would do this.
Yeah.
And then I said, what you do not realize is that I needed to go to Vitality for me to be the leader that you have now.
Oh, wow.
Because the Vitality experience was part of the plan.
Yeah.
God's plan.
Yeah.
I've been heading that team now since 2015. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. I love how, one, you created opportunities for yourself. So you got hungry. I need to do more. And thankfully, you work for an organization that has the ability to offer more opportunities. A lot of these roles that you are going into were, as you referenced, policy roles. What does that mean? What does that entail when you say it was a policy role?
So the policy, it's clinical funding policies. So we design, so for example, a patient has got hypertension.
Yes.
So we will say, okay, from a scheme point of view, we will fund for so many doctor visits.
Okay.
We will pay for this type of blood test.
Yeah.
We'll pay for this, these x-rays that they need.
Okay.
And then this is the medication that they will also need.
Yeah.
And this is the basket of care that they will need. So we designed that.
So you're the reason behind all these medical aid schemes that we see. Oh, this one only funds that. So you are the brains behind that.
But can I tell you something that people don't realize?
Yeah.
I always say we are the Office of the Public Protector. We protect the public from inappropriate clinical care.
Yeah.
Because not everything, because people think more is
true.
More care is better care. It's not the case. It is about the appropriate care. So we try, and I mean, we use it. It's an academic team because we go and look at clinical data to say, what does the clinical data say about specific treatments, about the frequency of visits and all of that. So if you're hypertensive, what specialists should be looking after you? Do you need to be seen by a physician? Do you need to be seen by a nephrologist, by a cardiologist? At what point does care need to escalate, and how do you cater for that in benefits? So
it sounds like a huge responsibility because commercially it can have either devastating or great results for the organization because you decide how many visits we pay for, what kind of sicknesses we pay for. I presume you work with actuaries in that or technical financial people?
So we do, but remember, the clinical robustness of the product is key because the actuaries can do the numbers. But we need to be saying what is appropriate care. And I mean, that's what our team does. And I can tell you now, you need to be thorough in your work. You can't do shortcuts. You can't. And I mean, I'll reference COVID.
Yes.
I remember right at the beginning of COVID. Remember, it was a new condition. We had never. We were the first scheme to come out with a product saying this is the benefit. These are the tests for screening that we're going to be paying for. These are the. And during that time, remember, there were lots of things. People were saying this medication helps, this one doesn't help, this one helps. And it was not an easy time. But when you know what you know and you've got the principles that guide how you do the work, we were not moved. And there were certain things that if we didn't have the necessary structures in place, we would have funded for things that were inappropriate because of pressure and other things. But we still looked at the data and said, but for this, we don't think it's the right one to consider.
Wow.
And
talking about COVID, you were in the lead in terms of shaping Discovery's response to COVID, and I believe you played a key role in various forums and organizations. COVID, as you said, was a new thing for everyone, even for yourself. How did you navigate that very challenging time? Because this is not something we saw before, and you are in the lead. You have to provide guidance, put together policies, etc. Just take us back to those moments.
I must say, I think we need to write a book. We do need to write a book. And I think I must really say the leadership at Discovery was the reason why we responded the way we did. Amazing leadership, in all different aspects. And we always speak about how, yes, I took the clinical lead, but there were other people who were taking different leadership for the response. Yeah. But it was knowing who is good at what and pulling together. It gives me goosebumps even today when I think about how we all held each other and said, it's a global pandemic, and we have to do everything that we can to make sure that we respond responsibly. And everyone just did what they needed to do. And I think saying also about the leadership, it was really about the platforms they opened for us to actually respond. I've got another qualification. I know we've spoken about pharmacology, but I've got another qualification, which is clinical epidemiology, which is a public health qualification. Yes. That's when you realize, okay, that qualification that has always been there. Now it was for this, and it was quite interesting. Like, I've given you my history around, my involvement in HIV. So it was another virus that needed to be tackled, and I said we've had another virus, and we've managed to keep it under control, HIV. Yes, we may not have eradicated or anything, but at least it is well managed. Here's another one that we need to tackle head on. And it was really the support that we got from the business to say we need to be responsive. And our members were looking at us, South Africa, as a whole, and everyone was, because remember, we didn't know what we didn't know, but we used all the information that we had to ensure that we provide support. My husband was still saying, he remembers, because I used to do webinars for doctors, on a weekly basis. I would be sitting there, trying to get, all this information out to doctors and empowering the doctors to be able to support the members. Yeah. We had to, if you go to our website, the amount of content we had to put out there. There wasn't much sleep. Sure. There wasn't much sleep, but it's amazing. God carries us through the most difficult times. When people ask, how did you do it? I also say, I don't know. I don't know. But I think when there was focus to say this is something that needs to be done, there's a response. We need to make sure that we provide accurate information to the public. People must find the relevant support in terms of the benefits that we had to create, and also making sure that we are at the forefront of making a difference and you remember at Discovery, we created the vaccine sites, so it was really amazing to be part of an organization that was really at the forefront and leading the response. And
amazing. I recall one of the talks you gave at Grace Bible Church. We're talking earlier before the set started. You said the timing of that talk was something else. Tell us about that.
That talk was on the 15th of March. It was the same day that in fact, we were at church in the morning. Yeah. We did an interview with SABC after the service. Yeah. And it was a short clip. Remember, in March, we still are planning our Good Friday celebrations and stuff like that. And I remember in that clip saying, we're going to be guided, obviously, by the global regulatory authorities, because that's where we take our guidance from. But from a church point of view, we have to reconsider how we reorganize ourselves, because there is this pandemic.
And we're hoping you were wrong at the time.
and I remember people calling me because now this clip was airing just before Cyril could speak. Cyril announced that day that we're gonna be going into level 5 lockdown. So for our congregants, we had already shared all the information that was relevant for them to. I mean, at the time we were still not wearing masks, by the way.
Yeah.
And if you remember, we had that Sunday talk in church, and we had our Ministry of Health's discussion the previous day, where all the leaders and the people who are serving in church, had an opportunity to also engage on the content. So that was the 15th of March, and in fact, while we shared what we shared, we still didn't know what we didn't know.
Sure.
Because yes, we knew we were going to get into the lockdown. We didn't know what, because we were thinking it's gonna be short-lived. We didn't know that 2 years later we would still be wearing masks. In fact, we didn't know about masks. We didn't know that. We thought, at the time, we were still saying only the sick people should wear masks, and the social distancing and stuff like that. And then,
But talking about timing, I remember one statement you made at that talk. You referenced that vaccines take time to develop.
Yes.
And you gave a timeline of...
Yes, it was
at least more than a year, or at least a year.
Yes.
And at the time, so we'll be locked down for a year. How can it be? And it turned out to be the case, right?
Yes, because it's not like quickie. But even when you think about the normal vaccine cycle, this was the shortest that you could, because of the nature of the global pandemic. And that's why people were very skeptical that maybe the vaccines are not great and wada, because, it took such a short time to develop. What they didn't understand is that, we were in 2020, it was not 1918 when the Spanish flu hit. So the advancements in technology, and also the way it was easy to recruit people to get into clinical trials, social media. So there were other things that enabled the fast tracking of vaccines. And we had to do a lot of education around vaccines because people didn't really understand. There was lots of skepticism. There was lots of vaccine hesitancy. So we had to do a lot of education even in that space. But
reflecting on that whole 2 years of COVID, I'm sure you picked up lessons about life, about leadership, people in general, uncertainty. If you had to summarize those lessons for us, what would they be?
I think the first one is, it's courageous leadership. In a time of uncertainty, you need leaders who are not going to create anxiety. They must give hope and reassurance. And I think that's what we saw in our building. In our building, there was no sitting down and feeling sorry for ourselves and saying, this thing is going to do this to us. It was almost like, what can we do to make a difference? And I think that's what we did in our church. It was almost like, okay, there's this pandemic that we're facing. We're not going to feel sorry for ourselves. We're going to make we're going to make a difference, and we're going to continue to live to give hope to others. So I think it's really that, and also being a visionary leader during that time, and saying, it is during times like these that you must be bold and think about big ideas and big things that you can still do even in the face of adversity. So I think that was that. People needed reassurance. People needed to find hope. It was scary. It was a scary time. It was a scary time. And I think that's that. But also, resilience was one lesson. We needed to be resilient because we thought it was going to be a short sprint, but now it was a longer...
we had to stick it out.
We had to stick it out. But knowing that at some point we're going to get to a time when... this thing was going to be under control, but also wanting to contribute, being part of the solution rather than part of the anxiety creation. And there were lots of things that people were saying, and we had to be out there to try and reassure people that that's not the case. And people had said, we'll all die after the vaccines in 2 years because of other things, Being that voice that tries and gives people that sense of reassurance.
Yeah.
But the one other thing, it is really just appreciating life.
Very important.
We lost loved ones. Fortunately, in my family, not, but we lost loved ones. And people lost more than just life. People lost livelihoods. People lost jobs. We lost the sense of connectedness. I mean, I remember during COVID that we would be scared of our loved ones. That was for me the worst part of the pandemic. And I think also for patients who were admitted to hospitals, they died very lonely deaths because their families could not come because of the conditions.
Yeah.
And I mean, we had to help people were scared. People were scared. There was a lot of fear during COVID. So I think right now, to sit in front of you without a mask and have a conversation, we start appreciating things like
Absolutely.
that. To be able to go to gatherings and enjoy company of others and not be scared that you're gonna, now contract COVID. To not sneeze and everybody looks at you and worry that you could have spread something. There was a time when sneezing was not...
Someone sneezes, you walk away.
Sneezing, I'm telling you, it's a normal response to other things, not necessarily a sign of a deadly disease, but sneezing was a problem. I mean, coughing was even worse. So we're coming from that time. So I think if we can learn something about just appreciating the small moments in our lives where, you don't take things for granted. If you have to meet up with your friend for coffee, do that.
Yeah.
If you have to enjoy, celebrate a birthday. I mean, we know people who celebrated their birthdays and it became the end of them.
Sure.
So celebrating life and really appreciating the small things.
Amazing. As we draw to a close, you referenced during this discussion, how God is involved in your life. Can you tell us more about that? What does God mean to you? What role does He play?
He's everything. God is everything. I think He's responsible for the whole of me and the whole of my life. And I think the beauty is that I've seen Him at play. I've seen how He takes care of me and takes care of things. And I've learned to trust in Him in everything, not some aspects of my life.
Yeah.
And whenever I have to go through stuff, I always say, if I give it to Him, I know He'll handle it in the best way that He can, because He amazes me. I mean, for people who don't know Him and who have no relationship with Him, I'm like, just try Him. That's all I can say. I can just say, try Him, because He is able to do amazing things. And, you look at certain things and you're like, wow, it can only be Him.
Yeah.
Because He does things that, it's not humanly possible to explain them in any other way, but just say he is the one who does those things. So He's my everything. He is the reason for being, and he makes life. He gives meaning to my life. Yeah, which is why I know in everything that I do, I always remember that I am where I am because He put me there. Yeah, yes. And I remind myself every day that for every reason. So if I'm sitting at Exco, I know it's not because it's because I'm smart. It's because of I know there's a reason why I've got that sit on that table. And I always ask myself, how does God want me to use it? Yeah, yeah. So in everything in my life, and the more I trust Him, the more He continues to show up in my life and show Himself mighty and the God that He is. Yeah, really amazing. Yeah. Dr. Noluthando, thank you so much for the conversation. I've really, really enjoyed it. Very rich, inspirational. Thank you for sharing your insights and your journey with us. Appreciate it so much. Thank you. Thank you, Jabu. Thank you. It was really lovely chatting to you too. Awesome.